Undod hani maktan.
After having a look around Ulaanbaatar for a while, we went out to Terrells, as our flight was delayed by a day and we had time to kill.
Well, we're back in Terrells, the 2nd of August. Just a quick trip out here to have a look at a few spots of rain, as you can see on the lens there. A lot cooler than that has been.
Supposedly all relating to the same thing.
We're going that way towards Turtle Rock. Turtle Rock again. A slightly different angle. We're going down there.
The following day we got in the plane and flew across to Wollongong. From here we started our walk, which this overview shows the whole thing through the mountains to the end of the walk where we got in the trucks and drove to Altai. After a stay there, we went to Tassadal by the eagle hunters, and then our camp, and back to Altai again. We have just landed at Wollongong. And loading everything into our vehicles for the drive out to the start of the walk.
Similar to the last food.
After landing at Wollongong, we drove out across the plains to where our first camp was at Terrells. was to start up through the valley shown here. Our first stop was at Dushnan's place, where we picked up our guides and horses.
Are you from China?
This is Georgia.
First day's walking took us up the valley. Leaving our camp and having several river crossings along the way, it was a fairly easy walk to the next camp.
We're about to leave. Heading up the valley there. Big mist into over there. The arrival of the pack animals on the morning of the 4th, I think it is.
I know. Patricia, you make those noises. Yeah. I know, I understand. I wouldn't go with them either.
The flooding rains of the previous few days had caused the rivers to rise, and the only way across was on horseback. It was a slow, one-at-a-time process. Finally, our leader, Tim Cope, came across.
Alright, heading up the river valley into the jaws of the gorge. Another sunny day.
Here we came to a bit of a dead end. It was a dodgy climb over the top, and we decided to wait for the horses.
Lucy got stopped us for the last hour. I've been waiting for the camels and horses to catch up.
These are our camels carrying a double load. The rest of the camels had yet to join us. another group of camels, not ours.
Overloaded camp.
Lunch on day one. These were ancient burial mounds.
This is looking ahead to some of the bigger mountains that are to come. The snow on top. Burial mound.
By the time we got to our camp, the sun was setting. The following day we continued up the river to our next camp.
This is the second camp after the first day's walking. A lot of the tents are already down. Looks like being a nice day. We arrived too late to see any of this, it was dark when we got here.
This is the first crossing of the day. It's not so deep, but there are quite a few channels. This horse has taken one of our people across and has come back for the next load. Here are our camels and we're just about to stop for lunch. These two humps are carrying the toilets.
This is lunch on day 2. And this afternoon we're heading on up the valley.
Looking back the way we've come since lunch, and that's the way we're going. It's about 5:30 now, and that's our group coming along. It's been quite a good afternoon's walk. This is the river we've been walking down for the last few hours. And there are the camels down there.
Well, we're now at the third camp. It's about 12 degrees, it feels quite cool. Lots of tents.
The next day we crossed the river and continued up the valley, visiting some Gers on the way to our camp below the pass.
And it's the morning of the 6th. Looks like we've got a fairly short day visiting some Gers and going a bit further up the valley. Usual process of packing up.
Yeah, everyone laughed at me, but if he's not well, it's the only way to keep the nutrition up to him.
The first Ger of the day.
조금만 나트리 야덕시 아이스테도 덕도 오르노 인도
I need some.
핸드소
Did you put photos out there to dry? Because the little kids basically enjoying tearing them up. So there's out the little kids out there. Yeah, so I'd like to be able to put them on the road.
More than you stick with 30, 40 yaks they have, but the last winter was disaster. We lost quite a bit. In our region we almost finished our yaks. You must remember, she's asking to me that last year was...
This is the Ger we've just been in. A cup of tea.
We just had lunch on the 6th. We're heading off to see another Ger. This is looking back where we camped over the river and the 2 Gers we visited this morning.
Here's the next Ger. Later on in the afternoon now, and one of the really big mountains has just come into view.
Altai. Энэ бол миний дуу. Энэ бол Altai нөө. Энэ бол миний төсөлдөг. Altai.
The following day it was a fairly big climb up the pass, and then we did a diversion over the mountains back down the other side to our campsite. First thing in the morning and we're getting ready to go. Virtually at the top of the pass now. And this is looking back down the tongue of land between the 2 rivers. And this is the remains of our camp.
Altai. Sulle Altai. Altai sulle Osmi. Altai sulle Osmi.
The two groups split at this point, some going over to the other side to have a look at the glaciers there, whilst we ascended the mountain on the north. We're heading up to that ridge. This is the high point of the trek.
Inus Altai. Altai.
This is the camp at the end of the day. Been a hard day's walk.
We came down from somewhere up on that ridge. Not quite sure where. In the top of it, I think.
First thing the next day we walked up to visit the lake, then back to the camp for lunch, and then continued down the valley to our next camp.
There's the camp. It's the 8th of August. We're heading up to have a look at a little lake. And then just cross the river.
And this is the lake which we walked right around.
Okay, we'll walk right around the lake now, around the other side. Go across this bit of delta coming off the glacier.
After returning to the camp and having lunch, we set off on the afternoon's walk back to our next camp. The next day, after visiting a Ger, we continued down the valley, finally arriving at our camp in the gully. First thing the next morning, we went down to the river to watch some nomads migrating.
Migrating family, this is. There's a yellow camp. And that's the way we go today. We've interrupted our breakfast to watch the nomads go past. Here we are, setting off on the 9th. It's only going a few minutes, normal late start, walking down the valley here. Well, this is about the first building we've seen since the hospital on the other side. Still making our way down this valley. The lunch camels.
Looking back the way we've just come and looking ahead.
Almost had a photo. Too many tourists in the way. Bloody tourists, get out of the way.
Come on, keep going. Where's your stone?
What a waste of a photo. Let's go.
Very different site for this camp.
This is the camp, the end of the 9th. Very different sort of place.
Just down here is the river. Final day's walk had us climbing out of the valley and going for lunch at a waterfall, then over this small pass and down to our last camp. Looking back over the way we have come. Just climbed out of the gully.
This is the lunch spot.
Mick going for a closer look at the waterfall. Halfway through the afternoon, lovely walking across these rolling steps.
That's the way ahead.
Yuvu at the last pass. After a brief shower.
Final count on this part of the trip. Just after the
It was here we were to say goodbye to the horse and the camel staff.
I hope we don't have to sing a song.
On my trip when I came through, what really impressed me was that he understood absolutely, why I was stopping and putting the tripod up, and he was so patient. He used to walk past and then do it again and again and again for me, and he was you could see him just using all his energy trying to understand what I meant.
And of course there was the final gift giving.
In commitment, have a safe journey, coming 6 days, and to fly back home also safe.
Although Sagana had never been up to those mountains where we went, for those of you who went up to the ridge, the high ridge, he'd never been up there. The way he went up there was as if he'd been there all his life. He ran up like a snow leopard.
But he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. You turn around and there's that cheeky smile. And then he cuts a fine figure on a horse as well. So on behalf of the group, we thank you for all of your friendship and for all of the help that you've provided us.
The next day it was into the vehicles again and off to Altai, where we were given this concert.
where we stayed last night. Nice comfortable place. Aldi market.
Drive out to Tassadal, we met this Kazakh eagle hunter and his magnificent bird. And he also had a very excited young wolf.
Listen.
This is where we stayed last night, in the Kazakh eagle hunter's Ger. The drive up the hill was just too steep for the vehicle, so we had to get out and walk to lighten the load.
Do you want to borrow some, Patricia? Do you want to borrow some sunscreen?
I think I do.
I don't know where my pack, I suppose. You might be driving.
Once at the top it was still difficult to get them to go, so some of us walked the whole way.
There's our camp. After having to leave the vans that couldn't get up the hill and walk a bit.
The snow soon cleared in the afternoon sun. We've just taken a late afternoon walk up to this glacial lake, quite a hard rocky climb. Some of our group going even further. The following day I decided to have a rest, so I missed the climb up the mountain. After a long drive the previous night, camping in the dark, we woke to find ourselves by this lake.
Yeah, and down jackets, you're right about that too.
And in the morning we had a short walk round the side of it before getting picked up by our vans again.
We've got a flight to here. Yeah, I'll get it. Gary? I've got that much crap now, mate. Oh, my bloody boy. We're very concerned.
After being collected by the vans, we returned to Altai, where we had a shower and then this feast in the evening.
He never had a tourist before, he never worked for tourism. Tour companies, he's enjoying his time. Yeah. He's 50 years old, he's building hard. He says since his daughter is going to marry, he has to work extra hard to make houses extension, and that's his wife.
They believe that to let a traveller pass by their ger is bad luck. And that's, in a way, they're respecting the traditions of their ancestors. And in letting travellers into their home, I mean, we don't really fit into the traditional nomadic way of life. I mean, you probably saw that guy today who was riding along with one arm with the two horses, and he was riding all the way to Altai, I think
40 kilometres further.
40 kilometres further, right. Oh, right.
That's what
to sell his horses, and you can tell the people like that who are making a big journey, they can't take all of their food and their sleeping equipment with them. If they have to spend a night in the steppe, they always rely on the hospitality of others. So they'd be dropping in on people just in the way that we do.
As a usually very nervous passenger myself, it was a great credit to him that I felt totally safe for most of the journey. And so much so that I think all of us thoroughly enjoyed our time in the back seat together, and that experience is going to add to our joyous memories of our adventure.
When we were going up the hill, there was myself and Vasily, Jagger and Umga, and we were pushing his car up through the snow.
I saw, that was you, yeah.
Tried again and again and again, but he never ever kind of, you're just so even and so composed.
Actually, when backfire started, it's happened right before Tsastu, and it was, I had a feeling from the back seat that we are on the barrel of power and it might explode. Frank, I'm absolutely frank. Just it might explode absolutely at any minute. So
he was blithering mess.
yeah, but I mean, again, I just take a look at his face, and then, well, it's cool. I mean, it was not an easy van to be in terms of engine and everything, but it was a very nice van to be in terms of driver.
ганц хоёр хүн удаа машин зүйдэг тэргээрээс харсан бусдаа байнгын нэмсэж их тайван юм байсан. Тэгээд юу ч хэлэх юм хэлж
байгаа. In the evening after the flight back to Ulaanbaatar, we had our final dinner, where we all had our performance analysed.
You and for Diane and Patricia, that Dashnyam today called me. He's got a very beautiful horse. Beautiful horse than last year.
Patricia, your directness and the way that you just speak your mind, and it comes out all the time. You're kind of a bit like a barometer of what's going on during the trip. When things are great, you can just hear all of your comments coming out, going down the mountain sometimes. So I wish I had written down some of the sayings that came out of your... because between you and Graham, there's some absolute classics. But the moment for me when you kind of clicked into this journey was probably the day when we were coming down from the big climb, and you and Graham were helping Mum, who was struggling a little bit down there.
That's an understatement.
And you, unfortunately, in the end, of course, you left the camera behind, where you called that place Shit Rock. So thank you for making the trip much more entertaining, and just for being a bit of a barometer for all of us what's going on. So thanks. Adrian only came in on this trip about a month or a few weeks before.
3 weeks before.
3 weeks. He didn't know because he was on a waiting list, and then basically someone cancelled right at the last minute. Well, sometimes I noticed the Mongolians would come galloping over to you and start talking to you in Mongolian, thinking that you were our guide. And, you may need to learn to use a compass. At some point, we were a bit worried.
Just being able to tell left versus right, I think that's a good sign.
We were a bit worried when you came out of when we lost you today in the airport.
Just one observation. In terms of how you and Seren have worked together, it seems to me it's like yin and yang in terms of how the two complement each other. If you look at the situations we have, like the other night when we were going down to the lake, which was a 2-hour journey, and 70 kilometres, which was a 4-hour journey, and Christ knows how many kilometres. And at the end of it, we were just ploughing into the bush, into the darkness, and everybody was saying, shit, where are we? Where are we going? What is happening? And then we get out and there's bags flying out everywhere, and there's Tim going... the epitome of calmness, like an anchor in the soil. There's Seren like a bumblebee everywhere, organising, making everything happening, and there's Tim as the anchor. The only time I ever saw him lose his calm was when Vasily was doing a Genghis Khan impersonation on a horse. I think it was only 2 or 3 Gers into the journey, and people were already getting into the feel of how to participate with these families, and it really made all the difference. From being just a trek through the mountainside, if we didn't have that experience with the nomadic people, it would have been just a totally different experience for everyone. And for that, we thank you, and we'd also like to show our appreciation with a gift.
Well done.
Thanks, Tim. Fantastic.
That's absolutely perfect. Yeah, the costumes of
Mongolia, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Next time you know that this tribe had this clothes and that tribe had this clothes.
I mean, you probably all noticed when we were in the history museum, it's what I'm really interested in the different ethnicities and the way that they reflect their environment. So, thank you very much. And,
wow.
For someone who only owns about 2 shirts, this has bolstered my style.
Firstly, I'd like to just plagiarise a little bit because I think it expresses our feelings. If I may just do some little quotations from the card. You are the princess of the steppe.
Wow.
But with a will of iron. I also hope that you enjoy the Australian and the Russian experience and have come to have a little understanding of our culture and our unique character and humour. It's, I think it's quite different from many other. And also the third dictum is never forget your head torch. And to that end as well, we have a gift for you. Firstly, your head torch. When it burns, may you think of us.
Yeah.
The eternal light. And thank you for the wonderful experience that you've given us. We will never forget.
Thank you.
Thank you.